I just weighed myself this morning. I think I'm at like 28 or 29, so almost like the 30-pound mark, which is what we had set out. I think overall some of the side effects are just my confidence is higher. My the clothes I'm wearing are fitting better. Um my mindset and my attitude are probably lighter in terms of where I was 6 months ago.
In this video, I interview my client Kyle, who has seen some absolutely amazing results, dropped 29 pounds in 6 months, did all of this while traveling typically every other week. And what he shares in this video is a lot of the systems and the changes and really minor tweaks actually that he made in his nutrition and his exercise regimen that played a big role in seeing some massive progress. The reality is, if you live a really hectic, traveling, busy lifestyle, you actually don't need to completely 180 the way that you're living your life. You just need to make some very small minor adjustments. So without further ado, let's dive into the interview. So let's start off first with just a quick introduction. Like, can you tell us what your name is, where you're from, what you do for work, and what your work schedule is like?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Gloss through all of that. So my name is Kyle and I'm based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I currently work for Microsoft, and we just got acquired by the company I work for got acquired by Microsoft a couple of years ago. So it was a medical health or medical dictation software. And so I'm focused on an area of kind of expanding the healthcare cloud business for Microsoft. And my work schedule is pretty bananas most weeks. I work on the kind of East Coast oriented, but I have collaborators across the US. And so reliably, I'm on the road at least, if not every other week, every third week, just getting out to see customers, going to, conferences or trade shows, or just having internal meetings that I need to be, physically with a larger team. So it's definitely been challenging, getting older. I'm in my kind of mid to late 30s. And so, thinking back when I was in my best shape, high school, college, your full-time job wasn't a factor. You had, depending on your circumstances, you either had a part-time job, you were in school, things felt manageable, right? And then as soon as you hit your 20s and 30s, you have a whole new set of priorities and obligations. And so, depending on how you choose to prioritize, sometimes fitness takes a back seat, or fitness and wellness take a back seat to other things. So.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. Since we've been working together, what's the results that you've gotten?
When we first started out, a lot of my goals were based in vanity. So it was, I want to look a certain way, I want to feel a certain way, I want to fit into a size clothes that I haven't been able to fit into in years. Um, so, I think a lot of how we structured them, you interpreted the vain intention, but you also kind of flipped it around and said, these are some attainable things that we can do based on, this program structure. We're going to do this, 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 which, again, when you're setting goals, you want to have something that is going to entice you to achieve those, but you also don't want to make it so unattainable that you get discouraged. And I think um, you created that level set and that kind of attainable mentality for me versus, I want to drop 100 pounds in 6 months. Like that's not real.
Not
So,
sustainable.
so I would say that overall, I mean, I just weighed myself this morning. I think I'm at like 28 or 29, so almost like the 30-pound mark, which is what we had set out to do. And just overall physique wise, I'm a lot happier. Clothes again are fitting that I haven't been able to fit into in years. And I had also been doing some supplemental programming with a different, I guess, a run coach, just for the audience. Just that was my main focus over the last couple of years. And working with you was more in the idea of like nutrition, and more so taking, I guess, slices at kind of my overall physique and making sure that my dietary choices can fuel my exercise and other goal type things. So that's what I really got out of your programming, and that was part of the goal we had set out.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, yeah, I know you mentioned the run coach, but take us before you met me. What were you doing before all of this?
Praying a lot. Yeah, no, just a lot of it was, I mean, it kind of was laziness, really. It was, coming off of COVID and kind of those, years where a lot of us were, at least myself personally, was just kind of beat down, and the idea of my psyche was not high. My relationships, as far as like friendships and other things, I was able to maintain those throughout the pandemic, but you can kind of see just taking a step back. Like people change habits, they don't go out as much, like it's harder to socialize. And so myself, I became a little more reclusive, right? And so again, just laziness. You'd go shopping and you'd kind of like plow through an entire weekend's worth of food, just binge watching whatever on TV, right? So that became like the habit over years. And you wake up and you're like, wow, I've really let myself go. So it was also just, getting that awareness of being, in your mid 30s, life's not going to get easier in terms of your physique and your health maintenance. And so it was also a little bit of a wake up call, not to sound so extreme, but the idea that if I don't take care of myself when I have the ability to, I'm not going to be able to later. So
Yeah, no, that's so true. What do you think did you have any limiting beliefs about getting leaner and stronger with your work schedule, with where you were currently at with your nutrition, anything like that?
I think the only thing that was limiting me was just my own application of resources and my own motivation, right? It kind of took that stepwise programmatic approach to drag me out of this information overload. Like I alluded to, it was just you either on social media or you're in the media, just proper like television, anything. Like you have this body standard that you want to subscribe to or you want to get to, right? But it's not the ideal for every person or every body, right? And so I had to do some introspective thinking and really evaluate what am I after? What goals can I achieve in a certain period of time? And if I can do that, what does it look like when I reevaluate and then pick a new goal or another goal, right? And so um, for me, I think it was just realizing that I'm not going to have the six pack or like the be rail thin like maybe the ideals are, but maybe my refactored ideal is more so that I want to do endurance sports and I want to be lean but muscular and healthy and all of those other things, and those are just those they look different than being like a fitness model or an influencer or whatever that is, right? So
Yeah, so true. Well, a lot of times fitness models are not that healthy too. Like I've been at 8% body fat before and it does not feel good. Your
no,
body's
no.
not meant to be there. Yeah, it's fun for a moment, but yeah, it's rough. Did you ever think about quitting?
Your program or just all
Yeah.
honestly, I would say like the stretch between Thanksgiving and New Year's, I didn't think about quitting, but I know we had like fewer check-ins or fewer connection points, and it was just a factor of just the holidays being quick and whatever. I mean, I actually saw good progress because I
Yeah.
was participating in a trade show for work and
Yeah.
doing all sorts of things. And so I would say yes. However, at the point that I was feeling overwhelmed, I was also seeing continued progress. And so it didn't make sense to, pull all out
In
of
the towel. Yeah.
that.
I love that. Yeah, it's great. When you're getting results, it's like, oh well, I might as well keep going. It's working. Yeah, that's awesome. What would you say have been some of your biggest learnings? I know you mentioned a little bit at the beginning, but yeah, if you had to lay it out, what would you say were your biggest learnings from the program?
Um, Again, I think a lot of the biggest learnings was, I mean, convincing myself to slow down, using you as a resource, using your programming and your experience as resources that they're intended to be, and realizing that I can't let myself get overwhelmed again with the information overload. Um, and I feel like there's a lot of like quick wins and things like that that are advertised that really aren't quick wins. Like you see a lot of these like supplements or these like meal plans or things. And I've certainly done like the factor meal plans and I've done other things, but um while they're good for their intended purpose, they just didn't work for me. And so a lot of it was breaking down my assumptions to a point where I could rebuild them with better information and better structure.
Mhm.
Um, feel more confident about the decisions I am making versus sampling from every corner of the world.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, that makes so much sense. And it's so true, right? There's just so much information out there and all of it's advertising, just like drop this like 20 pounds in a week and like do this and do this juice cleanse, do this fad diet, do that one. Like, yeah, it's overwhelming, honestly. Um, I'm curious, what would be your feedback on the program and like your experience with it?
Um, like we mentioned, I don't know if you caught this on the record or not, but in the intro, like, I mean, excuse me. I think it was great. There's a lot of resources, and you've put a lot of energy and time into building your resource pool, and you had a weekly call, and you have engagement channels for the your group of I don't know, trainees, I guess if you want to call them that.
Gladiators.
Yeah, gladiator. There you go. Thank you. It's right there. Branding. To interact with one another and post success stories and things. And for me personally, it was better for me to stay focused on kind of my own lane versus, again, getting into everyone else's story. But it was there for me to take if I needed it and wanted to. And um, just for me personally, it was easier to kind of get head down and focus on what I needed to accomplish. But I don't have any specific feedback to make it better. I think for me personally, everything I needed was there. You were accessible when I needed you. I didn't give you any kind of late night or early morning SOS calls. They were, you know, there's really no point to get you on the phone or text at, any crazy hours. You're accessible enough for us to be successful. So
I love that. What does your family or friend group think of your progress?
some of my closest friends are kind of shocked I saw them actually right before we started working together. And while I don't know if it's incredibly noticeable, I mean, we'll show the progress pictures,
Yeah.
get you some new ones, but um, I think overall some of the side effects are just my confidence is higher. My the clothes I'm wearing are fitting better. My mindset and my attitude are probably lighter in terms of where I was 6 months ago. I actually haven't seen my family in 4.5 months. So I mean the next time they see me, they'll I'm sure have some things
Jaws are
to say.
gonna drop.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm curious, you mentioned like, your mindsets have changed. What has changed about your mindset?
Um, I mean, again, kind of when just in my own experience, when you're not feeling like you're presenting the best version of yourself to the world, you start to get, you know, kind of demoralized and, bordering on depression, anxiety, all that kind of stuff are side effects. And when you start to make steps to kind of take care of your whole self, and we could talk for hours about kind of the benefits of therapy, and this is a plug, I guess, for anybody who is considering or benefits from that. But kind of those pieces are not necessarily directly correlated to your physique or your overall kind of physical presentation. But once you start addressing certain things, I mean, again, just being incredibly candid for me, anxiety over the course of my life, whatever, COVID, pandemic, withdrawal, social kind of withdrawal, that kind of stuff. But once you start addressing those things and you start feeling more confident in your body and all of that, it's kind of like night and day. I guess like I don't recall a specific day, week, or month that I woke up just feeling different, but over the course of, 5 or 6 months, I noticed a progression. I noticed my attitude getting better. I noticed how even with my coworkers, right? You wouldn't get so angry if they asked a stupid question. You would like, give them a minute and then you'd get angry. But right, just kind of those small things that like if you're on edge, you notice, and if you're not, something's different. So.
That's powerful. Yeah, I love that reflection. It's so true. Like what goes on up here manifests externally. So yeah, I love that. Can you imagine living the way that you used to now? Like going back to
Um,
what you were doing before?
I hope I never end up in that circumstance again or those set of circumstances. But I think with what I've invested in the last 6 months and the changes I've made, I really hope that this is lasting and sustainable. I mean, there's no reason it shouldn't be, but anything could happen. I could, get into an accident and, have to be in bed rest for a few months, but at least I have, the awareness of the steps that I took and the resources to draw from. So um
Exactly.
I'd like to say it wouldn't happen again.
Yeah. And if that ever happened, just call me and I'll tell you what your
Yeah,
back
that's
pains are
right.
going to be while you recover.
Hospital bed to marathon training. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What would you tell somebody who maybe is in the position you were in 6 months ago? What would your feedback be to them?
Um, again, I think it's very individualized to whatever the circumstances, but let's just assume that they, had some kind of mental demons that they were working through. I think the first piece of advice I would share is, evaluate some smaller goals, again, like goal setting or that kind of stuff. But if fitness and health and wellness are part of their goal set, take small steps. Do the what does a 1 month goal look like? What does a 3 month goal look like? What does a 6 month goal look like? I mean, the idea of goal setting, again, to reflect back on kind of your program, is it doesn't have to be achieve everything in 6 weeks, achieve everything in 4 months. They have to be um, small enough that they're achievable, but also meaningful and impactful enough that they're gonna change behaviors and allow you to kind of hop in the driver's seat and get there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. It's literally those bite-sized chunks, and then you do that over time, and you look back, you're like, "Whoa, can't believe how far I came." You do like 1 pound a week, and you look back, you're like, "Oh, dang, 30 pounds gone?
Yeah,
That's
yep,
crazy."
exactly.
Yeah, I love that. What would you say is the difference between Gladiator Strength and what else is out there?
Again, I think it's just kind of your resource pool, the kind of the stepwise progress through um your initial consultation. You took the opportunity to listen to, all right, where are you today? What are some of the metrics you can track? And where do you want to end up? And through, I think, some of the integrated tools, like, syncs with a smart scale, it syncs with your fitness tracker, it syncs with, MyFitnessPal, all of these things, again, for somebody who's interested in all the technology and things. They're really good tools. And then you have a resource library of recipes or food choices or things like that. And I think that um, I purchased some like cookbooks and things out there, which are great for kind of overall meal planning and stuff. But when you really dissect, I want a snack. Okay, well, you have a great resource on, where to go at, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods. The thing I liked is you tailored it to kind of like how real people think and shop and behave.
Yeah.
And that was, I guess, the easiest for me to get on board with, is I don't have to put a lot of thinking into, okay, this recipe is telling me to get a pound of, ground turkey and all these other things. Well, um, Zach made it really easy. You can find them here, and here's like a good gold-plated snack you can grab for on the go. Here are some good suggestions for how to get your protein if you're tracking that, all that kind of things. So,
Yeah, it's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. How likely would you be to recommend the program?
absolutely, I would recommend you for sure.
It's awesome. Um, Anything else you want to add about your journey or your story that you feel like would be relevant or somebody out there who's watching this might benefit from hearing?
Um, I just to reinforce like attainable goal setting, I think a lot of what I had to learn for myself was just portion control. The American portions are just massive. And so I've been fortunate enough to travel in Europe the last couple summers. And when you see how a different culture or country operates and how they kind of, I mean, the European countries, they're all about food anyway, but it's kind of like how they present and how they, live their life. They have very late dinners, they all that kind of stuff. And the portions that they serve you are, small by comparison. But again, just kind of that changing your mindset about, your portion doesn't have to be a, 40-ounce drink. It can be a 8-ounce drink or whatever that is if you're into soft drinks or soda. But even before working with you, I had made a lot of choices on cutting out sugar, cutting out soda, like all that stuff over the last several years of my life. And so really the icing on the cake, so to speak, was just being able to understand more about how the macros come together to fuel my body and my interests and my endeavors. And it's less about just eating out of boredom, right? It's
Mhm.
rewiring your brain to think about food as fuel versus food as something to go gravitate to when you're bored.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like when you understand macros, you see that like, oh, I can have a soda
Yeah.
if I want one, right? It's not like I can never touch a grain of sugar again in my life. And yeah, I love what you said about that. Yeah. Well, you're down like what, 28 to 30 pounds, somewhere around there. What's the next goal for you? What's the next like fitness milestone you're going to be working towards?
As far as overall fitness, I mean, so I've started working with my run coach and I've got a couple races this year.
Nice.
Um, I would say that my goals are less physique and number oriented and more just overall health and wellness and
Yeah.
being able to kind of complete and PR finish. I haven't yet determined kind of how we're approaching that, but being in my late 30s and doing these endurance sports, that's kind of the sweet spot I want to exist in for a little while. Is I don't have to go break world records. I don't have to be an Olympian, but I want to be able to enjoy being able to compete or, participate in some of these events. And because I've lost, 30 pounds, it's a lot easier on the joints, and I'm sure that'll continue, over the next few months as I can, ramp up that training. But yeah, it's kind of I guess nebulous as that sounds. I don't have any specific number goals in mind yet.
Yeah, honestly, I love that because that's how you truly build sustainability is like having those, those long-term goals of I want to hit this milestone, I want to do this for my health. Like you've already dropped a lot of weight. You've gotten to a much healthier body fat percentage. Like, you're looking better, you're feeling better. Like once you do that initial hurdle, then it just becomes like, okay, now this is just fun. Like, what do I challenge myself with next?
Right.
So
Right.
I love the way you're thinking there. Well, thanks again for hopping on, Kyle, and sharing your story. And yeah, if anyone wants to reach out to you, where can they contact you?
I can make my Instagram link available to you. Don't even remember what my handle is off my head. That would be the safest spot to get me.
You know, it's funny. You're not the first person I've interviewed who said that. They're like, I don't really go on Instagram that much, so I don't remember what my handle is. But
I mean, I'm one of those old millennials who's had it since the dawn of Instagram, so it's set it and forget it.
yeah, amazing, cool. Well, thanks again for joining.